Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, here another movie review. This time for another Luc Besson film. This one, Joan of Arc. Now, Joan of Arc, the movie here, is one that came out like 1999. He did this one with his wife at the time, Mila Jovovich, or I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, I really ain't. So, I could make jokes about it just all day, but I really just don't know how to pronounce it. But she's a beautiful woman. And she actually is good in action flicks, and she was great in The Fifth Element. And this film, woo! Luc Besson as a director, I really enjoyed Fifth Element, and I thought Leon the Professional was a masterpiece, just like Fifth Element I thought was awesome, but not as good as Leon and the Professional. But I really enjoyed both those. His other films, Lucy, I thought was just kind of from what I remember. And his other ones besides that, he's made some other good ones. But in my opinion, he's kind of a hit or miss director. But he's produced and written a lot of good stuff as well. Like, he's worked on a lot of other movies, like either from a writing standpoint or producing standpoint, like the Transporter movies and stuff like that with Jason Statham. I enjoyed the first Transporter. The second one I remember having some dumb fun with, and the third one's just kind of eh. But that's the way it is with any franchise. Eventually, they just start to dry up. But yeah, so he's got a lot of good projects like under his belt from stuff he was written and just produced and all that. But just in terms of his ones that he straight directed himself, they're kind of hit or miss with me in terms of movies. Like, he can have like one or two good ones in a row, and then have like two really bad ones, or just two mediocre ones, and then bounce back to another really good one. But it's just kind of overall like a hit or miss kind of director with me. But when he's good, he is really good. And this ain't one of those times. This film, I'll be honest, I didn't really know anything about Joan of Arc like going into this. So after I watched this, I wanted to look up some more of like the historical like facts about her and stuff like that, and just kind of breeze through them and stuff and compare it to the movie. Because when I was watching this, I was judging it as a movie, and from what little I knew about Joan of Arc going in, like, I get it. She's a woman who was like the first female warrior or whatever kind of in history that we know of, I think, and she had like religious visions and all that, or what may have been religious visions, or she was just crazy, who knows, except for the people that were there, and of course, you know. So, yeah, pretty much I think that Luc Besson wrote this film, and it was going to be directed by Catherine Bigelow, who did Near Dark and The Hurt Locker, both really good movies. She's, honestly, I think she's a better director than Luc Besson, in terms of at least more of a solid track record. So, I would have been interested to see what she would have done with this. But Luc Besson, of course, I believe, from what I've read, really wanted Mila to be in the film as the main actress because that was his wife at the time. And they're divorced now. I'm not sure why they got a divorce, but then she ended up getting married to the dude who did the Resident Evil movies, Paul W.S. Anderson or whatever. And she's a beautiful woman, so I get why both those dudes would fall for her, of course. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he wanted her to be the main actress in the film, of course, because it's his wife. He wanted to cater the film to her. He was in love with her. I get it. But at the same time, that caused Catherine Bigelow to walk and just get the hell out of Dodge. And so Luc Besson pretty much just took over directing duties, so he just decided to do it. As far as this film goes, I'll go from 1 to 4 stars. I'd give it a 1. In my opinion, this is a 1 out of 4. It sucks. It is a bad movie. It's not good. It has some good stuff in it. I heard some complaints online from reviews from like when this film first came out about it being too violent or whatever. Really, this film wasn't anywhere near as violent as I expected. Maybe it was violent for when it came out in 1999, but looking at it now, it's pretty tame. Like, there's some heads getting chopped off and stuff, but it's nowhere near as like blood shooting out and stuff as I expected. Like, I watch horror movies all the time, constantly. This is nowhere close to being as violent as some of the most hardcore horror films I've watched and exploitation films. Like, this shit is tame. It almost felt, sorry about that. It almost felt like PG-13 at times. But it does have some pretty hardcore moments in it, though. But they're sparse, so like few and far in between, though. But yeah, we got like this opening or whatever where Joan's like having a vision as a child. And she's like talking to the priest before that, and he's like, "Well, if you believe in these visions, trust yourself," because she thinks they're from God and all that. And so she's like having a vision, or what you think is a vision, but then you find out it's actually really happening, and her village is like being destroyed. She has a sister who actually learned in real life she had no sisters. Or she had like 2 sisters and like 2 brothers or something like that, I think. But I don't think any of them were killed in a battle like this or whatever. But like, these dudes show up there and they're like destroying the village and burning it down. And one of them like stabs her sister through a wall or like a closet thing or whatever, and then like rapes her corpse. So, but it's not as graphic as I'm making it out to be. But you get the idea of it though, and I was like, okay, I feel like you do need that because in this times things were extremely hardcore and graphic. But then I read, well, this didn't actually happen in real life, so it's like, okay, maybe that seems like the director just putting something in there as like exploitation. Then in that case, but yeah, the scene is done tasteful enough, even though it is obviously disturbing. But Joan survived. She like saw the incident because she was like locked in the room behind her sister where she got nailed to the wall. Uh, but she survives, grows up. She thinks that God is like sent her like a sword laying in the middle of the field, and she picks it up. And what's interesting about this film and weird about it is the Joan of Arc character disappears for like another like almost 30-something minutes. And you don't even see Mila for a long while, which was really weird to me because you would think the movie being called Joan of Arc, most of the film would be about Joan of Arc, and that's kind of the problem with this. She disappears for a little decent chunk of the movie, and by the time she comes back in, when Mila actually shows back up, it's like, oh, what the hell took you so long to reappear? You're the title character. I expected this film to be much more of a character study of the Joan of Arc person, but she just shows up. John Malkovich is here as like the king or whatever, and he does not seem like he's invested in this property at all. Like he feels like he just does not care about this movie, and he seems like he's just kind of hamming it up or kind of phoning it in and just treating it as something silly, like he doesn't really care. And that's definitely the vibe I got. But she shows up there, and Mila is extremely overacting in this film to the point where it feels like the director wanted her specifically to play Joan of Arc. It's just a straight up crazy and totally insane person. And I'm not blaming Mila for this because I feel like she was doing what was asked of her husband. Um, and I feel like she gave the performance that he wanted. And she is totally over the top to the point of just being so psychotically crazy. When I watched the film, I didn't know anything about Joan of Arc, so I was like, okay, I guess this is how she really was. But when I looked up some stuff about it, no, she wasn't like a raving lunatic like this. She wasn't this over the top. But, so, yeah, it's definitely embellishment. And so, then I'm coming from the perspective of, okay, let me just judge this as a movie. How is it as just a film, not comparing it to the real, like, Joan of Arc thing or whatever. Just looking at it as a movie, it's still not very good at all. You get some of the battle scenes, and Mila does a good job, and I like some of the side actors who are playing, like, the men and stuff she's working with in battle, and how she starts going crazier and cuts her hair like a man to try to get them to respect her and treat her as an equal. Definitely, you could play that like as a cool feminist type thing into the movie. But this movie really doesn't do a whole lot with the whole Joan of Arc character, really. She really feels two-dimensional by the end of the movie because they really never delve into her as a person. So she just kind of comes off as just the crazy lady, just over-the-top Looney Tunes. And when you get to the end of the movie, pretty much they've made like peace with the warring country or whatever, and she gets took in by them as like a prisoner of war because of how she's like trying to aggravate the king, John Malkovich, into not signing a peace treaty and all that. They're trying to get her to admit that she's insane or whatever, the church is coming against her at the time. But she won't, and then she starts having like these weird visions of Dustin Hoffman, who just came out of nowhere in the movie, and I was like, what the hell's Dustin Hoffman doing in this film? He just shows up out of nowhere. But he shows up in like this black cloak, and I was confused about what this was supposed to be because the whole movie has went straight forward with the idea that she is having visions from God, a spiritual thing. So, but when it gets to the end here, I looked up online and I heard that this was supposed to be like her inner voice trying to talk to her and tell her that maybe she is just crazy and maybe the sword in the field thing was just something that just fell there and she saw just what she wanted to see. So at the end, she still claims that she still believes or whatever, and then she gets burned at the stake and dies, and it's just kind of a lame ending. And then after that, it's like Joan of Arc, in the letters or whatever, in like letters across the screen or text. I mean, it's just like Joan of Arc was commemorated as a saint or something like that, or by the saints or whatever. And so it's just like, oh, okay, just kind of a lame ending because you don't really feel much for the character because she's never really made three-dimensional. She's very flat in the movie, and it's not the actress, it's the script. This really comes off like one of those vanity projects where the director was just trying to make something out of it. And it also comes off like one of those things where maybe the director doesn't really care about this historical person and just doesn't care about the material and just throws it together just specifically so he can make a movie about it with his wife in the lead. trying to make a historical epic just specifically, but he doesn't really care about the actual historical accuracy or doing anything honorable with the story of the character, which I get. But at the same time, if you don't care that much about the real person and all that, you just make a different type of film to play to your wife at the time. Do something else. But I guess he probably figured if it was called Joan of Arc, he would get more attention. But yeah, all in all, this is easily a 1. It's like the idea of just, I guess what it's supposed to be is you're supposed to be playing it straight the whole time, and then the whole big point would be, oh, a twist, maybe she is just psychotic. But it just comes out of nowhere to where it just falls flat, because the character of Joan, or of Arc, or whatever, isn't developed enough, so by the time you get to the end here, it's just thrown in, and just to have it, so it doesn't really add anything. There's really 3 ways you could do this movie. Okay, you got 1, she's totally crazy. She's not having any real religious vision. She's just insane. 2, she is having religious visions. It's all real. Or 3, you let the audience decide. You do something artistic with it that's done so well that it could go either way, and it's up to you as a viewer to decide. That's what a really good director could pull off perfectly, to where it's up to you in the end of whether or not her visions are really from God or not. That's somebody like Christopher Nolan could really pull that off, or just like an art house director a really good one could really pull that off. As is, they don't really go with any of them. It's just kind of pure chaos. It almost feels like there's too many cooks in the kitchen with this project, and nobody knows really where to take it. So that's what makes this really a big failure, is they just don't know what to do with this material. So yeah, this is, even though I think this movie is slightly better as a movie than Valerian and the Thousand Planets one or whatever, at the same time, that one's more entertaining to watch, just for all the colors and stuff. I will probably never watch this again, except for maybe if I ever run to the DVD or Blu-ray, if it's on Blu-ray for cheap, and just to see the features. But yeah, this was much more of a slog. Like, the Thousand Planet Valerian thing or whatever was slightly worse to me than this one. But at the same time, that one had more spunk to it. This one doesn't. And it probably shouldn't, because it should be more of a historical epic thing or whatever. But at the same time, when you do that, you're also asking more from the film. That other one is just kind of eye candy. This film needed to have more, and it really doesn't. So yeah, all in all, this is easily a 1 star out of 4. Unless you're just really obsessed with Luc Besson or a big fan. Even I'm a big fan. I'm pretty much obsessed with the dude too. I'll watch anything he puts out. But yeah, unless you're just really a big fan of Mila or Luc Besson, then there's really no reason to watch this. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.